Hello and welcome to the Real Hernando podcast. This podcast is created to highlight our amazing local community and small businesses right here in Hernando, Mississippi. I'm your host, Derek, and this episode is brought to you by Shelby Rowe Productions. Today, I'm talking with Stephen Michael. Stephen is a musician, songwriter, and owner of MissiHippie Music. MissiHippie Music is dedicated to organizing songwriter collaborations and live events across the Mid-South, designed for audiences that love original music. You can find more information at his website, MissiHippieMusic.com, and let me spell that for you. It's MissiHippie music.com. Stephen, thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. So by now we have met and talked a lot, probably more than I want, because I want to try to keep it as organic as possible here. But, I believe you reached out to me, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I was grateful for that because you were on my radar for sure. I had you on my list.
Yeah.
Not to make this like sales, but yeah, I have every business owner in Hernando on a list. If you're out there, you're next. But then you just kind of expedited that, and I was all about meeting you. I'd heard about you. I heard a lot about you through Chip Johnson.
Oh, great. That's awesome.
Yeah, when I interviewed him and sat with him, in our pre-interview for the first 30 minutes, all we talked about was music, and what he loves and his depth knowledge of music. And then, of course, you came up, so on the shallow end, right?
I think it's on the shallow end. I'm on the shallow end of the pool, trust me.
So we're here to talk about you and get to know you a little better, but as all these episodes, to also highlight your business and what you're trying to do and what you're not only trying to accomplish, but what you are accomplishing right now. So let's start with, where you're from, and we'll take it from there.
Well, born and raised in Mississippi. Let's just say that. So I am a Mississippian. My wife, the same. We were both born in southern half of Mississippi. Me on the Gulf Coast, her kind of that Grenada area.
How far from Gulfport is that?
I was born in Gulfport.
Okay.
And she was born in a little town that's no longer there called Stewart, Mississippi. Then obviously we didn't know each other, and then we both met in college, and ended up relocating, getting married, and relocating back to the Memphis area because you had to find a job, and that's where we've been ever since. Obviously, we did not want to live in Memphis anywhere else, and we found Hernando. And we've been here 18 years.
It's a different looking place now, isn't it?
It's changed a lot. We were here before Walmart, and when Love's was still the place over there on the other side of 55.
I wish I had a time machine. I'd love to see what it looked like then.
It was fun. It still is fun. It's a great place. Place.
So when you would go Mackinvale East and hit, Commerce East and hit Mackinvale, was it just a field?
It was. Yeah, it's pretty much fields. The neyborhoods weren't there. You didn't see half that stuff. The school obviously wasn't there on that end, and on this end, behind the Walmart area, there was a neighborhood, the clock shop area neighborhood over there, but that's it. And you just go out in the county, and you're in the county in 45 seconds.
Well, I'm excited to finally live in Hernando, even though it's got a Walmart. I'm cool with that. I'm just happy to be here. What's funny is now that I'm here, I want it to stop growing. I don't want anyone moving in. I got in, now we got to stop.
Yeah, you got to stop. Stop. Yeah.
Stop growing. Now that I'm here. Right? It's a little selfish that way.
Yeah.
So tell me, leading up to this, what you've been doing here with your music career and everything, what was your main background?
Public service, law enforcement was the bulk of my, professional career, and did that, and finally got to a point where it was no longer good for me to continue that career path. So I needed to find something healthier to do.
How long were you in that field?
11 years. And those 11 years felt like 20 plus years.
Well, I know your story a little bit, so I can imagine some PTSD is very common in your field.
It is. And, it took me a long time to acknowledge that. Because in that line of work, you're not really taught to show weakness.
Right.
You're supposed to be in charge and a presence of authority at all times. Well, the problem is with that is you can't switch that off when you step off the streets. You bring that home into your life and when you're trying to sleep at night or when you're just at a birthday party. It's
can be a little
always
intense.
there. Yeah, it's always there,
Yeah.
and it just eats at you. And of course, the things that you see, which is those things wear on you. Like over time, you start to become numb to your senses.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we're trying to do: is block everything out except for the business at hand. Take care of the task, take care of it efficiently and safely, and then get back in the patrol car and go on to the next scene. Right?
Yeah.
Well, over the years, it just took its toll. And I should say this: the majority of my career was spent in canine. So I got to work some fantastic dogs and with all the canine brothers out there and sisters, and that's just a whole nother level of law enforcement beyond regular law enforcement. It's a whole different animal, so to speak, in itself. But
and you worked in the Memphis area, right?
In the DeSoto County area.
Okay, no, not Shelby County.
Not Shelby County.
Okay.
Even though we did go to up in that area
If
at times, yes.
Because they might need a dog, right?
Yeah, and depends
that
on.
puts you in a little different spot because you were more specialized and
right.
probably needed on more.
Yeah,
right?
and if you were on task force or if you were assigned to a detail, then obviously you could be assigned to wherever you're needed, because that dog was such an expensive asset and such a specific skill set that there's not a lot. At that time was not a lot. Now the divisions have grown. Dogs have become accessible. Military has put more dogs out of service, which makes dogs adoptable for cities, and that's grown.
So they'll go from military to law enforcement.
A lot of dogs do, yeah.
They're already trained, right?
To a point, yeah. And then they come here, and then our two cities or areas and counties like this, which is good because it helps canine divisions grow. So you no longer have a six dogs working in the northern half of the whole state.
Yeah.
So I'm sure the people in Hernando who are going to watch this, they've seen on Wednesday nights all the canine vehicles from all the different agencies, probably sitting at a restaurant. Well, those are training nights, and you get to see that's how big the canine life has grown. But I was lucky enough to serve in that and meet some amazing men and women and some incredible dogs.
I'm really curious about the dogs.
I miss them. People say all the time, man, what do you can't believe you just walked away from a career like that. I mean, understand psychologically you need a break, but you got to miss it. And you know what? Honestly, I don't.
You miss the dog, probably.
I miss the dogs.
Yeah, I would too.
I miss them. I miss every morning waking up and having my partner.
So do the dogs stay with you as the
the handler?
The handler. I was going to say owner, but you're not the owner.
Yeah, we're the handler. We're the handler.
The dog stays with the handler 24/7.
24/7. This, whatever agency you work for within, especially in DeSoto County, and I'm going to speak to DeSoto County and the cities because they all pretty much work the same. Mm-hmm. They copied each other, and they're all pretty much one team, one canine team. But what the city does or the county does is it comes to the handler's home and provides them a proper kennel, a proper place for securement. Mm-hmm. And then the dog and then the training and all that. Now, some dogs, I'd say a majority of them live in with the family. We want to see that dog acclimate to the family because let's just face it, that dog is 365 days of the year with you. Mm. So the mindset people have of these canines being these monsters that just eat robots. Everybody, it's not true because you couldn't live with that.
Yeah,
you couldn't. Well, how can you go in your backyard? You're going to have a monster back there eating your kids' toys up. It's not like that. And
is there a fine line from keeping the dog professional and doing its job and being, sharp, and not domesticating it too much because it's at your house, laying on the couch with you while you're watching movies?
Well, believe it or not,
can that pull from that intensity and attention to detail that the dog needs on the field?
If it does, I never saw it.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you got to understand the dogs that, especially all the dogs that make that percent, they're 1% of 1% of 1%. These dogs, and they're mostly from Europe, and over in Europe, it's the way they breed these dogs is the whole community is involved. So these puppies have been in a home since they were born. They've been held. They've been living inside. People in Europe don't have backyards fenced in.
So they're
like
not grown in kennels and they're
not
just thrown out in the wild.
Those places exist.
Yeah.
But it's mostly, they know that the socialization of these dogs has to be extremely high, or they won't be able to sell them or utilize them.
Yeah.
And you got to think about a military dog. That military dog has got to be able to get on a helicopter with 25, 26 other guys dressed in full kit and be cool with being around everybody.
Yeah.
And at the same time, be able to get in a Humvee and in the police world, you got to be able to walk in a school. You got to take the dog into school with all these people. So socialization is right. So to answer your question, long-winded to get around to it, is we, at first, our mindsets was, hey, let's not try to socialize them too much, because we were fearful of that. But the more we saw, in all typical fashion, the more the human tried to teach the dog something, we learned from the dog, where the dog was telling us, hey, man, I'm cool. I can lay on the couch. And when it's time to go to work, trust me, I'm going to switch it on.
That's great. Because it's so easy to think of a canine as just this robot, machine. But at the end of the day, they're still a dog and they still want that owner. Yeah. So I would gather that comfort level will also make the dog more loyal to the handler and more protective of the handler, right? Very
much. And even his pack, because that family that the dog comes home, that becomes his pack.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when that officer goes to work and then he gets the dog out maybe into a SWAT situation or to a tracking situation where you have multiple officers, that becomes his pack.
Yeah.
So the dog is his ability to conform to pack to pack is something else that we look at too. When these dogs are chosen, the psychological stuff that we go through to pick that dog, all these things are in consideration.
Man.
Your sociability, his pack drive, his ball drive or his fight drive, what can we do to manipulate those drives to make this a perfect animal? We don't want a robot.
Right.
Did some dogs slip through the cracks or become more aggressive over time? Yeah, absolutely. They're still an animal.
Well, or you're still a human.
And come to find out, most times it was something we did that screwed something up on the dog,
But I see a parallel where it's A/B, switch on, off.
Yeah.
So you said you struggle with that. I'm sure dogs do too. As they get older, they must have a trouble either calming down or being able to ramp up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to keep harping on this dog. I'm fascinated by this, but I don't want to. We're here for another reason.
Yeah.
And this will be the last one. What is it like when your dog is going from being a dog, in the back of the car? I don't know how that all works, but he or she's chilling, doing his thing, to whatever signal you give it, snap of the finger, whatever it is, and then it turns into a police officer. Is it so visually obvious that the dog just now bucks up and is ready for work? What is that like?
It is looking back now, all these things that I overlooked because I was in the moment, I can look in my dreams and my memories and see these things like you're describing. And yes, absolutely. Every time I'd get dressed, and like if I was putting on a pair of shorts and t-shirt, my dog didn't care. He would walk around the house. Oh, y'all must be going out to Windy City or whatever, But if I went and touched any of my police gear, his whole demeanor changed.
He was ready for work.
He would follow me. He would not leave my side, or he would come lay by the door, or he would actually go where his vest was and lay beside his vest waiting for it. Now, so you go, once he got in the Tahoe, when he got in the back, it's a different dog. He was.
So in the car, it's all business.
It's all business. There is no, hey, let's go roll in the grass and mama's going to come out and give you French fries.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
It's like once your uniform is on, business.
It's a sight picture. The dog sees a sight picture. The sight picture is that dog, and what happens after those linear thinking of that sight picture is that dog. When he comes home, the sight picture is different. That's why we encourage no training at home.
Home is home.
Home is home.
Gotcha.
Now basic obedience training, it's fine. But don't go out there and be doing bite work and tracking in your backyard, because you're going to walk out and,
put your kid in a suit and having the dog attack your kid.
No, that's not encouraged, But
because now it won't be able to separate.
Right. The sight picture changes in the dog. And we're very conscious of that. And we're very lucky in this county. And I'll say this, DeSoto County, South Haven, Olive Branch, Horn Lake, everybody, Hernando, especially now, everybody has a good trainer.
Yeah.
And the trainers have got the experience and they know what they're doing. And we're very, very lucky to have all these guys and girls doing this, because I promise you, this is probably one of the best dog areas in the country, as far as the attention to detail, the training, the level of skill set. It's and I was lucky enough to get to be a part of that. And
that's great.
So, but to the original question was, do I miss it? I miss the dogs.
Yeah, I would too.
I miss the dogs.
Too. Wow, that's fascinating. I don't want to stay on this forever, because I could. So let's just leapfrog and just jump right to MissiHippie, you know, and how this all came to be. So, what was the connection between leaving the force to, and because I know your story now, because we've met, not only did you start this music company and movement, if you will, you had never played music before. So from go, you just decided, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. And then MissiHippie was born eventually. So what does that journey look like?
Well, probably the last year that I was in police work, I was in a supervisory role. And there's a lot of time that you'd have to do paperwork at night and late at night. And just sometimes you need a break. So I had as a joke, a little backpacker guitar that sat in my office, and literally I would just pick it up just to have a mental break, and I'd strum on it, and I'd always joke. And I made a joke to a captain back then. I said, one day I would just love to be able to play a coffee shop, and he was like, I was like, wouldn't that just be peaceful, So fast forward, now I get out and I'm literally here at the house trying to sort my mind out. And one day my wife comes through and she goes, hey, I know you're having trouble with all these nightmares. She goes, have you tried writing it down? And I said, I have not. And she left for work, and I poured me a cup of coffee, and I literally thought it was the dumbest idea, but I was going to, because I was desperate. I was going to try anything. And I started penciling stuff. And before you knew it, it wasn't what I was penciling. It was how I was penciling it, because it came out in the meter of a song. I have no music. You know what I mean? Other than listening to music, I'm a music fanatic. So the only thing I can think is that music, I listen to so much music and love music so much that my thoughts went down that path, and I started writing songs. And of course it wasn't perfect. It was junk, right? But it made me feel better. So at that point I knew maybe this is my therapy. So to take it, and like me, everything I do has to be
full boat,
full on, So that's when I said, I'm going to learn the guitar. I'm going to do this. Well, that's how that happened. That's how songwriting happened.
And what year was this going on?
This would have been 4 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
So I started writing, and then writing daily, like just writing.
Like almost journaling still at this point? Or
yeah, but
now you starting to think melody?
I'm thinking melody. I'm thinking chord progression. I'm thinking, but the funny thing is I only knew 3 chords. So everything, my first few songs sound all the same.
I'm guessing G, C, and D?
Cowboy chords. That's all you knew was cowboy chords. And so everything was the same. And then, so I knew I had to progress. So YouTube and all the stuff. And actually a couple lessons from Danny on the Square and he showed me some things and really opened my mind up to what was out there. And then, like in the police world, you learn to training, we train all the time. So be around people that you can learn from. So I started going to where the people were that I could learn or watch. So I started going to these songwriter shows, if there was one I wanted to go see. And this is how MissiHippie started.
Okay.
So what I saw was great storytellers trying to tell their story, but it was all being lost because the room was so loud. It was people talking, partying. It was glasses and drinks and food being served, and maybe only 3 people paying attention to the story. And as in me and the audience, I was even having trouble following,
Yeah.
So I got to thinking, I was like, there's no difference in what the songwriter's doing than a cover band. It's a party.
And I was going to say that because there's so many acoustic nights in bars, and it's so demoralizing to flip through Facebook and you see your buddy playing, singing his or her butt off, and you hear the chatter and the clanking in the back, and no one's paying attention. And that's always a bummer.
Yeah.
But it's next level if that person is really pouring his or her heart out there. Playing a cover song, I don't care how passionate about Margaritaville you are. It's not the same as singing your song
from your heart.
And really from your heart and pushing it out there. And that's when people need to listen.
And honestly, that's how it started. I left with such a fire now. I was like, man, something's wrong. Yeah. Why are we doing this? Then I got to seeing that the respect level for a songwriter was like non-existent. It was like a throwaway night. Mm-hmm. Like, so bars and places that have stages would say, oh yeah, open mic night on Monday. Yeah. Or hey, we're going to have a songwriter come through town on Tuesday.
Slowest night of the week.
Slowest night of the week where no one's going to be there, you know. Yeah. And then I got to thinking, I was like, that's not right. So I started thinking, what can I do? What can I do to change things? So believe it or not, that's how MissiHippie music started. I said, I am going to, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I will figure it out. How can I create an environment and give a platform or a stage and actually have people come that will sit and listen to the love of the music for the story and then give these songwriters their due respect. Because look, let's face it, those cover bands that you like listening to, they wouldn't be playing that song if someone didn't write it. Yeah. It had to go from somewhere.
And the guilty as charged. I've made a living on playing cover bands. Yep. Let's be honest here. And there's awesomeness behind that. I mean, I'm not trying to disparage anyone.
Nope, me neither.
At all, you know, because it's a business too, and you can earn some money and have fun. And and there are places that people do listen and care. It's typically the electric version, like the full band stuff. But what I'm curious about is, what's the timeline between the day that your wife suggested writing in a journal to I want to start something? How much time was there between that?
Probably not even 6 months.
Wow. So this was just a quick, I mean, and you knew like, okay, this is
it was almost like it was meant to be. It was almost like, hey, Stephen, now that I have your attention and you're done trying to drive your own life, let me show you another avenue where I think all your experiences that you've had in life, believe it or not, what I learned in other parts of my life are applicable to this. Yeah. So discipline, you know, tenacious, you know, all this stuff, drive and putting stuff together, how to talk to people, how to be in control and in charge, and how to have expectations and expect and deliver. Yeah. All that stuff comes into play. And when I put that first performance that we put on, I had no money. I had no financial backing. I just knew I was going to get some songwriters, some good ones, and we were going to put on a show at the Courtyard, and we were going to sell tickets, and we were going to change the game, right? And believe it or not, through just friends and networking, probably that first show, most people came because they were like, oh, it's Steven, let's go support him because he's trying something new.
So you're thinking 20, 30, 50 people?
Yeah. And it ended up being over 100 people. And
so was it a weeknight?
No, it was like a Friday, or it was a Friday night, I believe. Friday or Saturday night. Yeah. And so we were competing with everything, and, you know, and people came out, and what they found was it was literally like lightning in a bottle. Wow. Because it was full production, staging, lights, because I don't do anything. If I do it, it's full on. And sound was impeccable. Artistry was great. Everything worked. And then all of a sudden,
in lawn chairs.
People sat there. They brought coolers in. They brought their little picnics.
I think the sunset in the square is great, because even though you're seeing cover bands, but still the atmosphere is like chill.
It was
let the kids run around. Parents want to just enjoy some music, and they're paying attention.
Yeah. And you know, the cool thing is that when I saw the power of that, and the people actually respond, I was like, okay, I'm onto something here. So people do want this. They can come sit and be still and listen, you know, and appreciate it. Because I'm going to tell you, after that show, people were contacting me going, when's the next one? When's the next one? What are we doing this again?
Now, were you branded yet? Was it actually MissiHippie music?
We were just playing with it. I was just starting to say, hey, it's MissiHippie music. It's because I didn't know what else to call it. Because people actually would say, they would look at me, because at the time I had a big, you know, big Lieutenant Dan beard, you know, because I had gone rogue. And, you know, matter of fact, the last day I put on my uniform was the last day I shaved.
And then you went off the grid.
Went 3.5 years without shaving, and that sucker went down to here. And I was full on that picture from Forrest Gump movie, you know. Yeah. But, you know, people would look at me and they would go, so what are you, country? You just another country artist? And it was like, and I'm like, well, I like country, but I also like Tom Petty. And hey, I like Iron Maiden. You know, so I started saying, "No, man, I'm just MissiHippie."
So, do you think the beard was also kind of adding to that?
It just kind of gave you that country appearance, you know.
Yeah.
So that's why I used the first term I ever used it first was because I said, "No, I'm MissiHippie," and then it was like my light bulb went in my head. I was like,
"That's perfect.
That is what I am. I'm a mixture of everything."
Yeah, because a hippie can mean, you know, inclusive with everything. Like
exactly.
You're, you know, peace, love, man. You know?
Yeah. I mean, we're not the company that drives around the green beetle bus and hands out. But
you're not like hard struck. Like,
right.
No, I am this one style only.
No,
we're open to everything.
Yeah. You know, and I'll get to a good point to that in a minute. What we have coming up, which is great to that. But you know, the big thing is that I learned through all this, coming through a very structured life as a police officer, getting to a point where I was mentally broke down and lost as trying to find my way. What am I going to do? Darkest moments of my life. And you know, and I still battle. I still have, I'm still dealing with things. But you know, I found out, surround yourself with people that make you feel better. Get a hobby or a task and focus on it and give it all you got. You know, it's not about winning or losing. It's about occupying your time and your mind and staying frosty, staying on it, switched on, you know.
I would say anyone listening or watching to this that struggles with addiction of any kind, I mean, that's some great advice there too. You gotta distract yourself and do something that you really love.
And there is things in you, no matter how far gone you think you are through addiction or through with demons you're battling with or wherever you are, financial, whatever in your life, there is a passion in you. But no one else can tell you what that is. You have to. It might be woodworking. You know, it might be cutting grass.
And you didn't know what you had until you tried something.
No, I just knew that all those nights riding around with my dog that we were listening to all kinds of music. You know, that was us. You know, Steve, he loves music, you know. And then even when I came of a supervisor, even in my office, people would come to my office. I'd always have music playing. Never knew that was training me to get me ready.
It was training your ear to get on the musical side of things. Yeah. And so you were able to hear melodies and harmonies and formation. And it doesn't matter if all you know is cowboy chords. Yeah. Let me tell you, some major hits.
Oh, every rose has its thorn. G, C, and D.
I mean, it's 3-chord songs.
Yes.
God, you got a fourth in the bridge, and you got, I mean, a zillion songs that have been written on 4 chords. You know, so there's no shame in that. It's just how you manipulate it and what kind of melodies you wrap around it. And that's the art.
It is. And that's what makes it special, makes it unique. That's why I wanted to do MissiHippie music and give these songwriters, it's my way of saying, hey, you can go play at the bars and the coffee shops. Those are great. Go play. You can go listen to a cover band. That's fantastic. But guess what? Each one of those things are their own place. They're their own thing. But a songwriter night, a storyteller's night is its own thing. And go out and support it all. But I want to provide that one venue that's that storyteller's evening where you leave there really going, holy cow, that was some good music. That was a great night. I laughed. I cried. I feel good. I feel, you know, and that's how this whole movement's done. And how to tie it to Hernando, which is probably a question you're going to ask is, why Hernando?
Yes.
You know?
And then, so let's tie it to Hernando and also let's get it to present.
Okay.
Like, where's MissiHippie music now? You know, where is it at now? And I would say it's about 3+ years now that it's probably
about three. Seriously moving forward in this, knowing that we have a direction now, probably 3 or less.
Okay, cool.
Because it was kind of everywhere at the beginning because we didn't know. We were just kind of feeling it.
I think that's like any entrepreneur, small business owner. You're throwing stuff at the wall, right?
Yeah.
Well, now what's stuck? What's been sticking and what's been working and where are we at right now?
Honestly, through these accidental shows that we put on, we found out that that's what we're good at. You know, we could put on a show. I could go hire an artist out of Nashville and put on a big venue show. We could go rent something, but that doesn't make us any different than any other promoter that's out there. And that's fine. Those promoters, I'm not trying to be in competition with them. They do what they do good. I'm not trying to be another bar restaurant because bar restaurants and restaurants have music and they do what they do
that is
very well.
Saturated.
Yeah, and they're everywhere, you know. But what I'm trying to do was hyper focus on that one thing, that one feel, that songwriter night, right? And So that's what we've done. We've put on several shows now. Each one is getting bigger. And if the people who've attended them and are watching us, they will agree. They're probably sitting there shaking their head right now. Not only has the show gotten more professional and more streamlined, it also, the artists have gotten bigger writers. Actually, the last show we put on, we had writers there that had #1 hits, you know.
So where is the venue? Is it the same venue in Hernando, or do you
no, we tried
jump around locations?
The courtyard first behind ACs, which was an amazing experience outside listening. You know, the problem is that
volume.
No, the weather. In the summertime, it gets really toasty, and there's mosquitoes, and then pop-up showers. We got rained on one. We had to, and that's a nightmare. Once you sell tickets, now you're having to play that game. And then if I book an artist that's going to pass through, I can't guarantee that I'm going to get that artist again because they were coming through when I set that date. Now we have to do a rain delay. So we wanted to find another place. And then One Memphis popped up on my radar.
Okay, yeah.
So I went and talked to them and didn't even know if they would be interested in letting us come rent it because, you know, and I went in there and, you know, they were nothing but positive about it. They were like, we've had something like this here before, and it was somewhat successful, you know, and they believed in it, and they pretty much let us do our thing, and I personally think we put on probably the best one we've done yet at One Memphis. It was just the beginning of summer, so it was in May or June, one of the two. And we had Grace Askew, we had Rich O'Toole out of Houston, Texas, who right now on Houston radio is got a #1 rolling right now. And then he's more red dirt country.
Okay.
Grace Askew, I wanted to bring in, she's more Americana. She's like the queen of Americana music.
It's good to have that mixture.
That good mix. That's what I'm trying to do. And then I had Joe Leathers, who is the godfather of writing from this area in Nashville. He's a Curb publishing art staff writer. He wrote Hemingway's Whiskey for Kenny Chesney and Guy Clark.
Yeah.
He's written songs for everybody.
Man, a lot of people don't understand how Nashville works and how some of these writers you would never recognize. They'd be in Walmart, you would never know. They have written massive hits for so many artists. You just don't know. And they don't get the notoriety because they don't really want it. They get plenty of notoriety in their mailbox, but
mailbox money.
You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting that you could bring these heavy writers up. To most people are just their everyday people, but man, what they're going to bring, there's just solid, you know, songwriters. I've been to plenty of songwriter rounds in Nashville where you get the Jeff Daniels, you know, Jeffrey Steele, the guy who's written for all the 90s guys, you know, and you'll hear also what's funny is you'll hear a song that you recognize that you've heard on the radio, but it doesn't sound the same because it's coming from this guy, but this guy wrote it.
Yeah.
So it's coming from the source here. Yes, it sounds different. Maybe the singing isn't quite on par as what you heard on the radio, but it's coming from the source, you know, and that's special. You know?
And you're to your point, when Joe Leathers finished his round that night, he finished with Hemingway's Whiskey.
Yeah.
And finally told the story of that song and how he sat in Guy Clark's basement with Guy Clark and wrote this song and what that song was about. And it was amazing. Yeah. It changed the whole thing for me, you know, and there were so many people in that room that were just, you could hear a pin drop. And then he performed the song, and, you know, and again, like you said, it's not Kenny Chesney singing it, or it's not Guy Clark singing it. It was Joe singing it.
Yeah.
But it became personable.
It's the source.
It's the source of the song.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's where you get the most.
So you've heard it on the radio. You may even have bought it yourself because you love it, but now you're getting to hear the story. So that solidified to me that Mississippi music we've got what we do.
How many shows a year do you do in Hernando?
We're still right now in Hernando. We're averaging about 3.
Okay.
We've done 2 this year. I would like to pull another one off. Problem that we have in any small town is everybody's schedule. You know, vacations, football, basketball, sports, bands, daily life.
This is an extracurricular community.
Absolutely. And I'll be honest with you, I still have no financial support. It's not like I have a sponsor. So these shows cost me personally to put on. I have to front everything. And I'm just gonna be honest, the higher we get an artist coming, They're not cheap. They cannot come from Nashville or Houston, Texas for $125 or a burger, so this is money. And at the end of the night, my goal, my wife and I, when we started this, we said, as long as we break even, whatever we have a little bit extra, we're going to try to give back to the community. Well, this past show, I think I had $310, $15 left over. Well, we donated that money to the animal shelter.
Nice. Yeah.
The show before that, we had $300 left over, and we gave it to the Arts Council. So we haven't lost money yet.
Yeah.
We're not making money, but that's not really the point right now. The point is we're trying to say Hernando can support this. It can be something special here. Like, let's just face it, Austin City Limits, the show that's been on PBS forever, started the same way.
Yeah.
It started the same way. Now look at it. It's become a vacation destination for people all over the world. The Arts Council here in town, if people have been following the latest about what they're doing, and they're pushing for a space to have venues and property and things, and it's here, it's there.
Yeah.
How MissiHippie is going to play with all that, I don't know. We'll sit back and watch.
Time, yeah.
But we're here, and Hernando is our home base. We do take this show on the road. We do go all over and put on shows. We've been lucky enough, and I'll jump on this real quick because it's not really pertaining to Hernando, but it is. I'm representing Hernando everywhere I go.
Yeah, sure.
So last year, I got lucky enough to be invited to perform at the Frank Brown Songwriters Festival.
Where's that?
It's hosted at the Floribama, and right outside Orange Beach, right there on the line, Floribama and Orange Beach, Perdido Key in there. So I got down there and I performed. I was there for 2 weeks. Incredible songwriters, and these guys and girls are amazing, right? It was a fantastic show. Somehow met certain people, and the ball started rolling. Well, fast forward to this year, I got invited back to perform again, so I'll be there in November. But now we've been asked to put on a MissiHippie showcase.
Nice.
So at the last weekend of the Frank Brown at the Floribama, we've been granted a stage, the Dome stage, which is the premier stage, that is going to be a Beach Billy MissiHippie songwriter showcase. And I'm bringing in some amazing talent that we're going to put on a show in the middle of all this. And that is, I'm still sitting here going, how in the world did this happen? It
wouldn't happen unless you tried it. You put it
exactly.
out there,
Nobody else was doing it.
Yeah.
And come to find out, it really wasn't that hard. You just have to show proof of your concept, proof that you're doing, and show that you're professional enough to, hey, I'm going to give you more than what you asked for.
Yeah. We're going to show up.
I'm going to show up and show out.
Quality
is what I'm going to do.
Show up and show out.
And
let's
and
break that down.
Yeah. So pretty much I'm giving them, I'll be performing in the showcase, Devin Yannick, Mallory Everett, then you got Grace Askew, and her guitar player, Desmond, and I can't think of his last name, but Desmond. And then on that third slot, I've got Joe Leathers, Kyle Jacobs, who wrote with Joe a lot of Lee Bryce's current album.
Yeah.
And 2 other guys they're bringing to be determined from Curb. So that whole last slot is all Curb staff writers.
Yeah. If anyone doesn't know, Curb is Jason Aldean.
It is.
Everyone knows Jason Aldean. That's a name everyone knows. That's the level with this publishing.
Lee Bryce and all these guys.
These
guys. This is the top.
Yeah.
And somehow me and Joe, through Grace, are building a friendship, and he's liking what we're doing, and I'm working with him and Grace on some stuff, and Devin Yannick, and this has grown. Now, this all grew right out of Hernando, Mississippi, out of my bedroom because I needed a change of life. But Hernando gave me the opportunity to put on these shows, and Chip.
They gave you that platform.
Yes, and they supported me. Because if that first show I would have put on would have failed, and I'd have lost all, what little money I had to invest, I wouldn't have had a second one, you know. What I love about Hernando, to bring this all back full circle, is I am now putting on this show at the Floribama, but it all started right here in Hernando.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm just taking it there, right?
Yeah.
And if it works at the Floribama, and if you're not familiar with the Floribama, just go look it up and you'll see why it's such a big deal. we're pulling this off. If I can do that there, I should be able to do more here in Hernando. And that's my goal. As I move forward now, it's going to get to the level where I am going to have to start looking for sponsorships. Who wants to be a title sponsor for what we're doing? Because it is such a unique, special night with the tables and the catering. MissiHippie Eats helped us out with the food and stuff last. Wow. It just made the night, the wine, Bosco's Brewing out of Memphis, Andy and the owner of that has really stepped up. He has no ties to Hernando, but believes in what we're doing and loves the small town that he sponsors the beer. Yeah. And it's not Bud Light and all this stuff it's their craft beer from Bosco's they make, and they make the keg and send it to us. And then he sends 2 bartenders to serve it for us.
Wow, that's awesome.
The freaking brewmaster comes and pours your beer for you. Yeah. So if
you can bring in that sponsorship that gives you the cash to then pay, you can get better and better artists that way. Yeah.
And that's my point. If I have these little things of people wanting to be on board, then it's time to who is that title sponsor? Who is going to be the so-and-so presents MissiHippie music sessions in Hernando, Mississippi, Yeah. From there, then it's maybe we do 1 or 2 big shows here a year, and then maybe we take 1 or 2 shows somewhere else. Because my thing is you can't do them all here.
It will, it will water it down.
Yeah.
You don't want to do 1 a month because people will be like, oh, I'll catch it next month.
Right.
Make it special.
Yeah, it's got to be. And it's got to be something that the people here in town, when they're here, I want them to be, I don't care who's playing. It's a MissiHippie show. It's going to be good.
Yeah.
And that's the other side of this coin too. I can go find these great writers and bring them in, but I also want to also have a pairing of an up-and-comer. So you're always going to see somebody who's written a hit with somebody who is you're about to hear.
Yeah.
So
which is super helpful for that person.
And that's my whole thing is like someone like me, I'm a songwriter. I don't have a hit on the radio, but I wish I had a nice stage to play on that was quiet. So obviously I'm going to get on stage with these guys that are hits. Sure, I ain't going to be on there every time. So next time there's another artist. So that's the other part of this is finding these smaller writers and giving them a place, a voice, pairing them with the bigger writers.
You're a curator. Like curating is fun.
Right. Oh my God.
It's like you get to cherry pick. Ooh, people will maybe not be available and turn you down, but you can make a list. Oh, this show would be awesome if I had these 4 people this time.
And there's exciting, a lot of that. And that's what I'm learning too. It's like, you just can't get, say, Susie Songwriter and put her on stage with, say, a Joe Leathers because there's no chemistry. There's 2 different styles, way too different. So there's a lot of thought process when you say, hey, so-and-so's got a songwriter, a kid that's a songwriter that's coming up, or a young man or woman. Well, you listen to their music and you're like, that's
go well with this.
That would be good. And then you pair them, and then that's how that grows.
Yeah. Well, quickly, let's give some call to action here before we wrap this up. How do people buy tickets? Where do they get this information?
Every time we put a show on, we get on our social pages. So I encourage everybody, if you're on Facebook or Instagram, go find MissiHippie Music.
MissiHippie.
Yep. Facebook and Instagram. We try to keep updates of what we're doing. You can follow us. And then our website, MissiHippieMusic.com. That is also our ticket vending site. And we're still trying on the tickets to find out what is that affordable ticket price for everybody. We're still playing with that. We don't know. We're figuring it out.
Yeah.
So be patient with us on that. And for anybody that's interested in being potentially a title sponsor, reach out to us. There's a lot of businesses here in this town that could be parts, or multiple people that can help grow this. And I'm appreciative that the town will actually allow us to do this and the support that we've gotten. And I'm still humbled and blown away, and I'm still figuring this out daily.
I mean, there's a parallel between that and this podcast here, and my experience in this, and I can attest to all that. The feedback and acknowledgement that people will give you here is great, and they support you, and it's fantastic. So that's why this podcast exists. That's why you're on it, Stephen. And let's give listeners a little more call to action here that will help all of us, right?
Yeah.
So please go to our website, therealhernando.com. that's where you're going to then be able to find this very episode with Stephen. In that page, you can watch it, you can listen to it, or you can even read it on transcript. You'll also give all the links to everything we mentioned here, all his socials, all of the Real Hernando's socials. It's really the hub where you can get all the information that you need. You can find the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Audible. And the Real Hernando has some social accounts too. You find all our promotion. Again, you'll see all kinds of video clips from this episode with Stephen on Facebook, Instagram, and now we're on TikTok. Can you believe that? We're on TikTok now. Come check it out. Would love to have you and then the number one thing I'd love to ask everyone here listening and watching is share. Share. Share this episode, grab its link from the website or whatever platform you prefer. Put it on your socials. Let's share this out. That's the biggest and best way to not only spread the word of the Real Hernando, but also the awesome people that we interview on this show, because that's the whole point. We're trying to spotlight you, Stephen. So the more people that share this in any way you want, the better for everybody. So, Stephen, thanks again for joining me today. It was an absolute pleasure, man.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
This is awesome.